Hello, everyone. I'll be sharing with you this time the upcoming Sunday School lesson for November the 13th. This is a continuation of a study of the book of Ephesians. Again, it will come from chapter 1, this time verses 15 to 23. The lesson title in your book is called Christ is Wisdom. It's about spiritual insight. Have you ever prayed for spiritual insight? Well, I expect that you have many times. There are times in our lives when we are not sure what to say or do. We don't want to make a bad situation worse. We want to help, not hurt. We want to bring comfort, to bring healing. If you are not sure what to say or do, start by giving thanks to God. An attitude of gratitude is a great way to begin. Start by giving praise to God and thanks to Jesus. Be thankful, and before you say or do, pray. Pray until you have an answer, or at least pray until you have the courage to speak or act in love and grace. The introduction on page 75 of the Learner's Guide is a great story. A young man returned from war to find his mother deathly ill. She needed a blood transfusion, but her blood type AB negative was rare. In 1946, it was hard to find blood matches, and the son was devastated when the doctors offered no hope. The only thing on his mind was how to say goodbye to his mom. But before that happened, God intervened and presented him a miracle. He was driving and noticed there was a hitchhiker along the road, which he allowed to get in his vehicle. And they had a conversation. He ended up telling the hitchhiker about his mom. The young man, the hitchhiker, was also a returning soldier, and he showed the man his military dog tags, which revealed his blood type was AB negative. He told the son to get them to the hospital, to get him and his mom to the hospital, where the hitchhiker gave his blood to the son's mom. This transfusion worked. It allowed the mom to live about 50 years more. They never got the name of the man who gave his blood. Maybe that was appropriate. These kind of events do happen, and maybe something like this has happened to you, where you didn't see a way or an answer, yet God provided anyway. As I say many times, God knows things we don't know. That is why we need to pray for spiritual insight. What does this type of prayer look like? Verse 17 says, "May God give you the spirit of wisdom and revelation so that you may know him better." Hundreds of years earlier, Israel had a king by the name of Solomon. Solomon was noted as being the wisest man in the world, so popular that people came from all over just to sit at his feet and hear him expound about knowledge and wisdom. Solomon built great buildings, and in his younger years was devoted to God. He was the man that wanted to know God better. He had the spirit of wisdom and revelation. But as he aged, he became proud with misplaced priorities. By the time he died, the kingdom was financially bankrupt and on the path towards spiritual bankruptcy as well. Solomon's eyes had been turned away from God. For us, we need to keep our focus on God true, that we might know him better. And as we read in verse 18, that the eyes of our heart may be enlightened. You can't give light and hope to others if you don't have it yourself. Verse 18, the hope to which he has called you. Now this is an exhortation to salvation. Jesus Christ is God's blessed hope. When I was a kid, someone asked me, did I know if I was going to go to heaven? I answered, I hope so. My hope was based upon what I had done. Being a good boy, going to church, being baptized. My hope in myself is insufficient. The hope Paul is talking about is a done deal. It is Christ's death and resurrection. It is God calling us to be Christ's followers, Christians. The blessed hope of salvation in Jesus Christ is the hope for the church, capital C. Without Jesus Christ, we are nothing. Verse 19, his incomparable or incomparable great power for us who believe. How great is God's power? Can you answer that question? I don't think that any of us really can, at least not adequately. The measuring stick of God's great power is the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. In this passage, Paul is asking the Ephesian Christians to expand their vision and understanding of God. When Jesus walked on this earth, he amazed people. He did things that people had never seen before and which people thought were impossible, healing the blind and deaf and mute and lame, casting out demons, curing leprosy, and even bringing the dead back to life. Jesus revealed in his actions power that was mind-boggling. People began to think about God differently. How great is God's power? They didn't know, but they sure thought that it was greater than they could describe or understand. God's power operates in a spiritual dimension and universe, as it also operates on earth. The only limitation to God's power is us, you and me. Sometimes, even many times, however, God does things, great things, even in spite of our lack of faith. Why the emphasis upon the resurrection? It is because the resurrection is the guarantee of our salvation. We serve a risen Savior. Jesus is the only spiritual religious leader or head who ever rose from the dead. All the rest just died in the grave. Jesus rose from the dead with unlimited power, and when his job on earth was complete, finished, he ascended back to his original and rightful place in heaven. Just read verse 21. All rule, authority, power, and dominion belong to Jesus Christ. That covers it all. The resurrection reveals to us that there are no limits to God's supernatural power. And finally, verse 22, Christ is head over everything for the church. As you know, I have a deep and passionate love for Christ's church. I want Christ's church to be its best. Even when the church is not being its best, I want it to be its best. I want our pastors to be like Jesus, in love with the Father and in love with God's people. I want our deacons and elders to lead as servants, humble and wise. I want our people to be people who truly love one another. And to also have a deep desire to share Christ with those in our communities who are not in our churches. Christ is head over everything for the church. Let me break it down like this. There is nothing going on in your life that Christ is not concerned about. Think about that. He always wants what is best for you. Let Christ fill you in every way. Have a blessed week. I hope to see many of you Sunday as we worship together. God bless.